Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Cosmic Owl Astrology Podcast, the weirdly cosmic podcast. I am Louise Eddington, your cosmic owl, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Virgo full moon. But before I do, just a couple of messages. I am an astrologer, and I also use tarot, and I'm also a shamanic practitioner. I'm the author of 3 books. My first book was Modern Astrology. That did very well, but this one is a bestseller, The Complete Guide to Astrology, over 6,000 reviews on Amazon. And I have a new book coming out. This book is going to be available on March the 15th. It's available for pre-order now. It's also available on Kindle right now. I'll put the link in the description below. Early reviews are fabulous. We've had some review copies go out and people are loving it. We've had all 5-star reviews so far. So check it out. But let's dive in because we've got a lot to talk about today. Before I talk about the astrology, though, I want to look at the card because when we look at the astrology, I actually do think Venus is kind of ruling right now. And I know I'm not not really kind of the following the herd when I say that. But I pulled this card for this full moon, and this is the Venus card, the Empress card. And this is the principle of love with wisdom. It's the Earth Mother. And I want to read you the quote that goes with this Thoth Venus card, the Empress card, in Angeles Arian's book that looks at the Thoth Tarot. And this is: love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. So I want you to remember that. Love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. And that was actually a quote from The Road Less Travelled. And she's really, she is Venus, she is Demeter, she is Ceres. This is kind of the principle of the earthly Venus, really. So we'll look at that in a minute too. So anyway, let's have a quick look at the chart before we talk about the actual details of all this. If you're just listening on audio, I will describe what I'm looking at. So the full moon, the Virgo full moon, is on March the 18th, 2022. It's at 1:17 a.m. Salt Lake City time where I am. So that means it's on the 18th for pretty much everybody. Maybe Hawaii is 3 hours behind, so not there. But that makes it 8:17 a.m. Universal Time, so you can look at all your times. So it's on March the 18th, 2022. So looking at the numbers of that date quickly before I look at the chart, that's the 3 months, 9-day, and a 6-year. So we have the 369 code that I've mentioned quite often. And that was Nikola Tesla said if we understood that code, we'd understand the keys to the universe, basically. And it's on at 27 degrees, which is a 9. And this is the 6th of 6 full moons at 27 degrees. So there we have the 6 again. So this is all bringing me hope, even though as I record this on March the 3rd, Venus and Mars are conjunct Pluto. Russia has invaded Ukraine, we're at war, things look very unstable, things look very dystopian, but I still have hope because of these things. So this, as I said, is at 27 degrees Virgo. It's a full moon, so that means the sun is in Pisces, the moon is in Virgo, they're in opposition to each other. And I call the Virgo Pisces aspect the kind of practical mystic axis, sorry, not aspect, because the Pisces is definitely the mystical, the collective unconscious, the mystery, the magical, the creative, and Virgo is the practical service, wants to be useful, wants to make everything whole, bring it down to earth, ground it in reality, ground the mystical in reality. So remember that as well. So other things we have to look at in this chart are that this full moon forms a rather beautiful kite pattern. We've got an Earth grand trine that's going to Pluto, who has been doing a big number on us since 2008 when he moved into Capricorn. Pluto's now by this full moon on his own in Capricorn. He's going to be on his own in Capricorn, apart from when the moon whizzes round every month, for quite some time. It's quite a few months till the other planets move around back into Capricorn. And in fact, I think it's next January that he actually has conjunctions. So Pluto's left abandoned. We've had huge Capricorn energy. We had that major conjunction in January 2020 with all the planets converging with Pluto in Capricorn at the start of the pandemic. And we've had another big convergence of planets in Capricorn at the start of this geopolitical crisis that we're in. But Pluto's on his own by now, on this full moon, and in this beautiful Earth grand trine. At the other corner of the Earth grand trine, in Taurus, we have Sedna, which, according to Alan Clay on Dwarf Planet Astrology, he's written a book on Sedna, represents spiritual destiny through crisis. Pluto and Sedna are almost exactly trine on this full moon. But we have this Earth grand trine, which kind of is a very healing, earthly, material grand trine, bringing sensible and practical solutions. But it's not just a grand trine. We have a kite, and the focal point of the kite is 27 degrees Pisces, which is where the sun is. And the sun is still conjunct Neptune in Pisces. We'll have had the conjunction of Sun in Pisces, of Sun and Neptune in Pisces at 23 degrees. We've got Jupiter heading towards a conjunction with Neptune on April the 12th. So we'll probably look at that in the next podcast. We've also got Mercury in Pisces. We've got a very big Pisces stellium on this full moon. And that gives me major hope, because this is the focus of this healing kite. It's saying with the collective unconscious is coming together. We've seen generally with this invasion, and I'm not being political at all, but we've seen more people kind of come together on this than ever before. We've seen a huge rise up in compassion. Not everybody, of course, and you might not agree with me, but whoever you're having compassion for, we've seen. So I'm just what I'm witnessing. We've seen huge compassion for Ukraine and the people of Ukraine, but we've also seen compassion for the people of Russia, who are standing up and saying, no, we do not want this, we do not support this invasion. So, there's compassion coming up on both sides. People are just like going, no, we've had 2 years of pandemic. Now we do not want to go into a third world war. So it's just that general feeling of no, we've got to do things differently. We've got to lead with love. And so that, for a start, brings me hope. Other things I kind of notice on this full moon is not only that it's at that number, the 27, which I've looked at a few times, and I'll just talk a bit more about it when we finish looking at the chart. But the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, the south node in Taurus and the north node in a Venus-ruled Taurus. So there's Venus again. And Venus, by the way, is the higher incarnation of Earth, according to the esoterics. And so we're getting, I think Venus is very powerful in this. So we'll look at Venus again in a minute. But she rules the north node. She rules the sign that Sedna is in, and remember, spiritual destiny through crisis. Taurus is where we're being pulled towards. Venus stationed retrograde in December, conjunct Pluto, and as I record this, is conjunct Pluto now in Capricorn. She had one of the most important retrogrades in our lives and in history, probably, in Capricorn recently. So she's empowered from her retrograde in Capricorn. And on this full moon, Venus has overtaken Mars. Mars and Venus met at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is a very hot degree. I won't go more into that. But they met for the second of their conjunctions at 0 degrees 1 minute Aquarius, and then Venus charged ahead of Mars. So Venus has kind of met up with both Mars and Pluto, the rulers of the south node, because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio and Pluto is the modern ruler. And now she's charging ahead. And on this full moon, Venus in Aquarius is at 11 degrees Aquarius, which is a gateway number. But not only that, Venus is in square to Uranus. She actually stationed direct 11 degrees Capricorn in square to Uranus. And she's also in sextile aspect to Chiron. So there's a great, Chiron is in Aries, which is Mars ruled. And Uranus is in Taurus, which is Venus ruled. So she's kind of bringing this potential for healing. And 11 is a master number of huge potential for enlightenment and growth. So we not only had Venus stationed direct 11 degrees, back at the end of January, she's now moved on a full sign and is at 11 degrees on this new moon. Now, this full moon is in Virgo, or is a Virgo full moon, and is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Pisces, and Mercury is at 13 Pisces, and 13 is a Venus number. It's one of the numbers in the Fibonacci sequence, which is very Venusian, and 13 is the number of the goddess. So there's a lot here telling me that we are healing. Now back to the nodes. The nodes are at 23 degrees and they are in aspect to Neptune in Pisces. And 23 is a number that I've talked about a lot. It's actually the most human of numbers. We have 23 digits, 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears and a nose. We have 23 sets of chromosomes, humans do. It's also the number of days in the biorhythmic cycle, the number of seconds that blood takes to run around the body. 23 is the most human number. It's also the number of Eris, who has actually just moved off the 23rd degree, but she's still hovering at around that degree, and she's at the midpoint between Neptune and the North Node in Taurus. So just all of this together brings me a very divine, feminine, yin, healing aspect. Yes, Venus is morning star Venus, which is supposedly more warrior-like, and we definitely did see war as she joined up with Mars and Pluto. But I have hope for healing. We've also got I mentioned that Venus is in sextile to Chiron, the shaman, the key to healing. Chiron is conjunct Pallas Athena, who is a problem solver and a strategist. I kind of think we might be finding some solutions and problems to this crisis that we are in right now. So, there's perhaps more I could say, and I'll come back to it in a minute, but I want to go and talk to the numbers. All right, so, there we go. I've lost my thing. But anyway, the 27 I've talked about for the last 5 months. So I'm going to look at some other things. The 27 is the number of the Bodhisattva. It's the number of the enlightened being who stays on earth, though, who doesn't kind of go off into like Zen enlightenment. It stays to teach other earthly beings. Like the Dalai Lama would be a bodhisattva, and that's where I want you to remember that quote with the tarot card, that love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. So the Empress card really is the bodhisattva. Venus is our bodhisattva. Now, the number 27 is known as the Trinity of Trinities. It's partially because 3 is the cubed root of 27, 3 squared is 9, and 9 multiplied by 3 is 27. So you see we have that 3, 6, 9 code all showing up everywhere. There's 3s and everything. The world is composed of water, and the remainder belongs to land, which is 27%. The Hebrew and Spanish alphabets both have 27 letters. In the Bible, the 27th book of Proverbs has 27 verses. After Julius Caesar's assassination, the Roman Empire was established in 27 BC. And that's kind of quite relevant because the Roman Empire lasted about the time of a Pluto cycle, and the US is going through its Pluto return. Pluto is returning back to where it was. So we're reaching the end of a Pluto cycle for the US. The planet Uranus, I think, and I mentioned Venus is square to Uranus in this, has 27 moons, and elephants have 27 pairs of chromosomes, which kind of made me laugh because somebody said, they were talking about the invasion and they were like, oh, there's wrong on all sides, and when 2 elephants fight, and the earth gets fought, it gets destroyed. But anyway, I'm giving no opinion on that quote, but then the elephant showed up here as well. So the 27 number meaning is a number of humanitarianism, compassion, philanthropy, cooperation, and tolerance. All right, so that fits with the Bodhisattva. This is the number of the 27. Now, of course, it's made up of the 2 and the 7, which are also beautiful numbers. The 2 is so the 9 is also humanitarianism, empathy, and idealism. The 2 is the number of the divine feminine, which is coexistence, cooperation, relationships. The 7 is inner wisdom and solutions. Okay, so thus 27 contains the energy of non-judgmental humanitarianism and tolerance, and with a dose of cooperation, diplomacy, and introspection and spirituality. So it's quite a unique number, and we've had it 6 times. This is quite astounding, to be quite honest. And even though we're kind of not seeing it with the war looming, or happening rather, I kind of see it in the chart. Now, to look at the chart as a whole, to come back to it again, I mentioned that the full moon is that practical mysticism, bringing the spiritual down to earth in a grounded way of wholeness and service and usefulness. And I think this is one of the most beautiful axes we have. And so yes, the Pisces energy can bring confusion. We are in heavy Pisces season. We've got Jupiter and Neptune, both rulers, the traditional Jupiter and the modern Neptune, rulers of Pisces, in that sign. But it's also heightened compassion and spirituality. We have Mercury in Pisces, said to be in his detriment, but I'm not sure I buy all that, really. I kind of think we're going to be, I kind of feel of as Mercury in Pisces as the more tuned into the divine feminine and the word of God, or whatever that is for you, the word of the unconscious, the word of the collective. And I kind of have this suspicion that Mercury may have been said to be detriment because Pisces is the least rational and patriarchal and straightforward sign. It is the one where we trust our knowing. It's the one where we trust our intuition. It's the one where we listen to symbols, messages, just things that we just know. And that's not been a quality that's been celebrated much in our society. But so this stellium in Pisces is hugely strong. And remember, it's at that focal point of that kite in this full moon chart. But then we have a stellium in Aquarius. And I didn't mention everything that's in the sign of Aquarius. We have Vesta. Vesta will have moved into Aquarius. She was actually the last planetary body to conjunct Pluto after Mars and Venus did, before they all left the sign of Capricorn, and before Pluto moved from 27 to 28 degrees temporarily. He'll be moving retrograde back to that degree, but he's now at 28 degrees. So we have Vesta, which is focus, commitment, purpose, sense of purpose. And remember, she was the last one to conjunct Pluto and dig forward. Then we actually have Kariklo. And Kariklo is in Aquarius. She's the grace spinner. And she really kind of, I have to thank my friend David Wood for this. She leads us to a healing space. Okay, she leads us to a space where we are able to really access healing. I actually want to quote to you what he said, and it's David Yarrow Wood of Aquarius Sons. Kariklo leads us to healing conditions, environments in which our systems can draw upon our intrinsic healing capacities. I'm like, David, wow. You summed it up. Anyway, Kariklo, well, first Vesta's at 3 degrees, so there we go, another 3. Kariklo's at 7 degrees, which remember is part of that 27 degrees, but it's a lovely kind of intuitive, beautiful number. But she's also still conjunct the South Node of the USA. I think there's a lot here to do with how the US responds geopolitically to this crisis, as to how we're going to come out of it. And again, I'm not being political, I'm just saying what I see here. And I do see potential for a changed response, at least. Whether it happens, I do not know. And then we have Mars. Mars is at 9 degrees, so another of the 369 numbers. Mars is at 9 degrees exactly, and 9 is an ending. 9 is a completion number. And Venus, as I mentioned, is at 11 degrees of Aquarius, which was actually where Saturn was on the final Saturn-Uranus square. So Venus is highlighting that Saturn-Uranus square, where we've had this push-pull between liberation and conservatism and freedom and all that kind of stuff going on for months. Then we have Juno at 17 degrees Aquarius. Juno is the Hieros Gamos asteroid. She is our relationship to all that is other. And she's at 17, which is an 8, which is a very stable number of infinity. And so we have that too. And then we have Saturn. Saturn has moved to 20 degrees and of Aquarius. And so that is actually the second decan of Aquarius. So that's a Mercury decan. Mercury's slowing down, is in the shadow of his retrograde. It's got a while to go, but it's in the degrees that he will retrograde by. And he's leading the way through Aquarius. And, I think Saturn sometimes gets a bad rap. And Saturn in Aquarius could be about mastering the higher qualities of Aquarius and thinking about that in the Mercury decan, thinking where we need to go. So we've got a huge energy in Aquarius here. We've got 2 stelliums. We've got the Pisces stellium and we have the Aquarius stellium. Now we also have, of course, we're still in the draconic bowl pretty much. Ceres has left the draconic bowl. She left it at the end of January, and so has Sedna. But I think, looking at traditionally, we have till the middle of April before Mercury leaves the draconic bowl and the first of the more traditional personal planets. We're still in a crisis. And then we have that moon over there in Virgo at 27 degrees of Virgo, which is a kind of a beautiful energy, kind of holding the space of all of this energy in the chart in her hand. And so the moon being a divine feminine energy. So let me tune in and just see if I want to talk about anything else in the chart. We do have nothing going to that. No, I think I've talked about everything. I do want to say we do have a lot of energy around 11, 12, 13 degrees. Even 10, I'm going to say, so let's say between 9 to 14 degrees. So that area of the chart is affected in a big way, as well as the area of the chart around 27 degrees. So if you have anything around those degrees, you will be feeling all of this. Okay, but we're all feeling this collectively. But I just love that it's a Virgo full moon. Incidentally, just an aside, another friend of mine has been looking at the chart of Vladimir Putin, and there's been a lot of rumors about Putin giving everybody the wrong birth date in his files. Apparently, it's common for the KGB to kind of be very secretive about their origins, and there is a rumor that he was actually born in 1950, not 1952. And if he was born in 1950 on the same date, then this full moon is on his lunar nodes. So that'll be interesting. We'll see. So for the symbols, but before I go into the symbols, I've got a couple of things to mention to you again. Again, do not forget, my book is on pre-order, The Complete Guide to Tarot and Astrology. I don't think I mentioned that for you audio listeners. I'm so sorry, but the link is in the thing. I also want to mention my sponsor for the podcast. It's Ephemeris. And Ephemeris make these wonderful pendants. They're lovely and weighty, so they don't just float around. And the chain's quite weighty. And it's got my birth chart on it. I don't know if you can see it. It comes in different colours, well, gold and silver, and I've got my birth chart on there. So it's like it comes down to my heart level. So I always say I'm carrying my chart on my heart. So I'll put the link for that below. If you want a lovely gift for somebody, get their birth details and get their chart on the heart. I think it comes still with actually astrology reports as well when you buy one of these. So lovely pendant. I wear it often. I also want to mention this calendar. This is not a sponsor, it's just I bought it because I love it. There's a page on Facebook called She Who Is, and she's a beautiful, beautiful goddess artist. You won't be able to see it on if you're listening on audio, but it's She Who Is. And just go and check out her art. I bought the calendar and it's got all kind of the goddess feast days and holidays listed on it as well. So that's quite beautiful as well. So let's go and look at the symbols. And I'm actually going to read you the symbols for the moon's position and the sun's position, because the sun is so important, I think, in this one. Okay, so let's look at Virgo 28, which kind of made me go a bit... A bald-headed man who has seized power. Now, Putin isn't bald, so all these a bit. But anyway, the sheer power of personality in times that call for decision. Whether at the religious or at the socio-political and cultural level, there comes a time when patterns of order and cultural refinement have to be radically and relentlessly challenged. Catabolic personages emerge to seize power and dictate decisions that alter the structures of society or within an individual life. An intense urge for cathartic changes mobilizes the will, and traumatic decisions are made. At such times, the issue has to be met, and, ruthless as the power may be, must be accepted. So it's basically everything bows to the power of the will, divine, executively human, or satanic. So, which will it be? Okay, that's the Sabian for the moon. So I'm just going to get up the Sabian for the sun, because the sun is so powerful in this particular full moon. So we go to Pisces 28. A fertile garden under the full moon reveals a variety of full-grown vegetables. The full satisfaction of the individual's basic needs. What is stressed now is not the full moon itself or its light, but the moon's power to call forth the instinctive urge for growth. Many things respond in many different ways. The symbol refers to a typical garden, not to a field. Such a garden contains a variety of plants, herbs, and vegetables grown specifically to fill an equal variety of human needs and tastes. In this sense, the third symbol of this 70-second sequence combines the meanings of the first two. It's a symbol of abundance, an abundance fitted to individualized requirements and wants. That one really gives me hope. Okay. So let's look at the Chandra symbols, my favourites. So Virgo 28, autumn leaves pressed into a book. The mind is a funny thing. It pores over experience with a fine-tooth comb, yet only sees what it expected to see. The mind programs itself, indoctrinates itself thoroughly and intensively in the art of imposing the familiar and the assumed upon all of life. This is a maddening way to operate, yet it does not register as being so. Instead, you like it this way, prefer it, advocate it, simply because it is self-reinforcing and self-perpetuating. You are after elaborate confirmations and validations that the little self is perfectly splendid just as it is. And you will be sure to get these. The transaction is guaranteed. But there is an unknown self who cannot breathe in this atmosphere and who knocks at the door, seeking entry, and is not very pleased to be tuned out and pushed away and told that we are fine as we are and do not need to be stirred up by the voice of the rest of existence. In other words, do not stay in that little self. Find the big self. That's just fantastic. So let's look at 28 Pisces. A horde of monkeys chattering, possession by local spirits in mischievous, playful fashion, cast into an abyss, dumped out of status and specialness, and made to be hyper-receptive to whatever is moving here. An abandoned center, karmically sacrificed to learn both humility and the lessons of the street. The state of mind, random, chaotic, inspirational, capricious, given to every kind of spirit passing through. Sorely troubled, yet fantastically out of touch, a regressive loop with powerful emanations. The feeling is that something must be done, and that this will require a change of heart. But you've got to go deep, and it takes a whole lot of desperation to turn this one around. Well, so basically, everybody, I have real hope with this full moon and the series. I think the series of 6 full moons that we've had, starting with an Aries full moon back in October, is taking us, or giving us, this a massive opportunity to bring this more peaceful, more enlightened, more Bodhisattva state into the world. I always believe we have free will, but I think we're being given this opportunity over and over and over and over and over again. And ultimately, our spiritual destiny is that point in Taurus, the Taurus Venus ruled North Node, and Sedna in Taurus, spiritual destiny through crisis. Oh boy, are we in a crisis? Have we been in a crisis? And Sedna is at 28 degrees, which is conjunct the full moon eclipse, Taurus eclipse, that was one of the full moons in November at 27 degrees. So all of these full moons and everything have been pushing us towards that. And now we're going to move off this 27 degree. We've had these 6 full moons at 27 degrees, 5 new moons in between at 12 degrees. There's the 3 and the 9. Again, 3, 6, 9, very creative numbers, finding the answers. We're being given, I think, in my opinion, the opportunity to find solutions and to create the new paradigm. Now we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and I know the sign of Aquarius is different to the age of Aquarius. But I can't get away from the significance of this huge Aquarius stellium in this, and that we are continuing to have that 0 degree of Aquarius being highlighted again and again and again. We're being hurtled into a new paradigm, and we have a choice of where we take it. So I pull you towards that horde of monkeys, and the Sabian symbol as well. You can go back and listen. Actually, I'll put both of those in the show notes below in the description. But just think overall of this practical mystic of thinking of the collective. Pisces is the collective consciousness. It's the cosmic soup. It's the point of creation. It's the amniotic fluid of signs. It's, a lot of creation came from chaos, and Pisces is the most chaotic of signs. And that's where we're coming from, and we are to bring that down to earth on this full moon. Enough preaching. I keep hoping we learn this lesson. I love you all, and I will see you next time.